And we're, of course, watching what Vice President J.D. Vance is doing because he's headed to Iowa later today. Now, he's going there to campaign for Republican Congressman Zach Nunn, who's currently facing a competitive challenge to keep his seat, representing parts of the Des Moines area. He's always what we call a frontline member. But this is going to be Vance's first visit to the state since taking office as vice president. And while it allows him to stump for a frontliner, it also gives him an early chance to gauge his reception among Iowa Republicans, who will cast the first votes of the 2028 Republican presidential nominating contest. Vance has, of course, not yet declared if he'll run, but anyone going to Iowa catches our attention. As MS Now political analyst Matthew Bartlett has in his new piece out titled "The GOP Whispers About J.D. Vance Are Getting Louder," it's important because he writes in part this, quote, "If you ask the MAGA base, they will tell you without hesitating that Vance will be the 2028 nominee. But the quiet talk in Washington is much different and growing louder. Even Trump is reportedly asking friends and advisors about who would be better, Vance or Secretary of State Marco Rubio. Where some of the president's opponents recognize that at times Trump can be charming, even funny, the vice president seems to have one note, and it's flat. If the public wonders what it's like having a beer with Vance, you can bet it's sour. The Rubio whisper is now becoming a wish with some who want to keep the White House in 2028. Expect the jockeying to continue, but only behind the scenes. It appears that no one's eager to enter their Cadillac in the demolition derby that is the 2028 Republican primary. Matt Bartlett, the author of that piece, joins us now. I mean, look, both of them are doing fascinating things, right? Because you and I have talked so many times on this program about the ways that the foreign policy of the Trump administration is really out of the Rubio long-time held playbook. And yet Vance, who really adopted many of these MAGA principles, including the fact that America first meant America not intervening, feels a bit left in the dust with the foreign policy aspects of this administration. And yet he's still the heir apparent. I mean, how are you squaring that circle?
Yeah, I mean, Ali, what a good point. You know, the MAGA coalition has some MAGA conversions in both Rubio and Vance, and maybe even some contradictions from, like you just said, a foreign policy that maybe Marco Rubio, much more Republican orthodoxy versus a J.D. Vance, you know, one who served in some of these endless wars, ran on them, and now has to talk and defend them. So it's a very interesting dynamic, an odd dynamic. Right now, again, J.D. Vance is so far ahead, I even wonder who would run against him. But then these whispers start happening here in this town. And it's not just some of the activists, whether you're a leading conservative, whether you're some of the state-based ones. But like you just said, it's the president himself talking about some of this stuff. You know, the other day, the story came from the White House. Background sources. I'm from New Hampshire. We talk like this. Rubio is wicked smart, promoting Rubio. So we'll see what happens here. I think some of these chances of Rubio maybe growing louder. You know, who is J.D. Vance? He just kind of hit the scene as Trump's VP pick versus a Marco Rubio, someone who we know. So, yeah, right now everyone's focused on the midterms. Then you get the horizon there, the horizon line, 2028. A lot of Democrats, you know, probably about 20 of them are out there every day trying to make news, trying to make friends, trying to gain an advantage. And then you look at the Republican Party, and there's a lot of questions about what comes next.
Yeah. How big is that field going to be? You know, I keep a list of the Republican and Democratic sides. We will launch it soon. I promise to the steadfast followers of that on Instagram. But I do grapple with, for Republicans, it is both that the conversation is Vance or bust, and yet there's so many ambitious people in the Republican Party who see themselves as a president. I look over in the Senate and I can name at least 5 names. Do they just hold their fire? And for the president, this is the thing I keep thinking about. When I covered the Veep stakes and he ultimately chose Vance, the conversation among his allies and advisors at that point was he's picking a vice president. He's not picking an heir apparent necessarily. He didn't want to just do it all in one fell swoop. Of course, that would lose the drama.
Yeah, I mean, first off, you know, your campaign coverage, you know, is how I even got to know you. And people in, you know, the early states look for your list. So we can't wait.
Good.
You know, you just had an extraordinary interview with Mike Pence. Again, who was the vice president, took himself out. Nikki Haley took herself out. So now we're looking at, you know, who wants to jump into this race. People are always ambitious in this town. You used to run for president, get your name out there. Maybe you make it to the cabinet room. Maybe you make it to the green room of a conservative outlet. But right now, no one's making any big moves, I would argue. You know, you have former Governor Youngkin. You have current Governor Kemp. You have Ted Cruz, Josh Hawley. but no one's, putting this together because as soon as you step foot in an early state, the president's going to look at you. Yeah. And while an elephant never forgets, MAGA rarely forgives. So this is just a very weird race that, continues to develop on the horizon line.
What is the state? I know you're going to say New Hampshire, but when you've got Vance going to Iowa, New Hampshire is on the horizon, South Carolina is a place that we all look. I mean, is anyone making quiet moves that we aren't talking about? I mean, Vance is quite out there. We all know.
I mean, that's the thing, is that I don't think it's necessarily one state. I think you're going to have a national campaign because right now, in 2026, even with the president's numbers at historic lows, even with Vance reportedly at a 35% approval rating, MAGA continues to be the dominant force in Republican politics, especially those primary voters for president. So how do you craft a campaign that appeals to them when you are not necessarily part of this administration? That is the big question. And that, I have not seen any indication that anyone is prepared to do that.
Yeah, and yet they're going to have to grapple with, in a post-Trump era, who gives them the MAGA agenda, which is going to have to be rebranded because MAGA really was just whatever Trump wanted it to be.
Yes.
And no one else gets there are no rules of political gravity that apply here. Everyone else, gravity pulls them back down.
MAGA is where the president is at. How do you pass that torch? What a interesting point.
Yeah, that's going to be what we end up following for the next few months. And 2028 is happening right now. Matthew Bartlett, you were always right about that. MS Now political analyst. Great having you on. And you guys should read that new piece. It is available online at ms.now. Really fascinating look.